Good evening. A Toronto police officer has been rushed to hospital after a collision with a tractor trailer on the 403 late this afternoon.
The officer is a member of the motorcycle squad and was on duty at the time of the crash. It happened around 3:15 in the westbound lanes of the 403 near Dundas. The officer was rushed to a trauma center. His injuries are considered non-life-threatening. A police source says the officer was caught under the tractor trailer. CTV News has learned this officer was taking part in a motorcade training exercise today. The westbound lanes of the highway are closed at Dundas, and they are expected to remain that way for some time. We will update this story when we have more information. We have a team on the scene. Dozens of stolen credit and debit cards, more than $500,000 in total losses to unsuspecting riders, all the result of an alleged taxi scam.
Toronto police showing off the results of their crackdown today. CTV's Mike Walker is following this story and joins us live tonight with the latest. Mike.
Well, Nathan, Michelle, this was a 10-month investigation resulting in 11 people facing more than 100 charges. Police say they would pose as fake taxi drivers to steal debit and credit cards and then purchase luxury items. Luxury clothing, diamond-encrusted jewelry and watches and art, all bought with stolen credit and debit cards by suspects who police say posed as taxi drivers.
We're alleging these fraudsters scammed Toronto taxi customers out of over $500,000 in a 10-month time frame.
Toronto police launched Project Fair last July and discovered a criminal network that they say defrauded more than 300 victims. Investigators say the suspects would use vehicles that were modified to look like licensed taxis with signs like this one, or vehicles that once were cabs. And they would only accept debit or credit when it was time to pay the fare. That's when police say the suspects would discreetly swap the victims' credit and debit cards.
Sometimes the POS machine won't work. They'll then have their card in the machine and the taxi driver will say, "Let me try." And then they'll put in the card, the PIN number, or they'll do something like that where they've got control of that card.
The stolen cards and PINs then passed on to an accomplice.
To withdraw funds from ATMs, deposit fraudulent checks to artificially inflate account balances, and make high-value purchases.
Police say the bogus taxi drivers would target busy areas like theaters and the entertainment district. Some of the victims were defrauded of thousands of dollars.
We had 3 occurrences where there were over $60,000 taken in a very short period of time, overnight, often before the victim would even wake up in the morning.
In May, police executed 3 search warrants and seized handheld debit and credit terminals and hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of luxury items.
We believe that they were purchasing it for themselves, for trophies.
So far, police have arrested 11 suspects who are facing a combined 108 charges. These 2 suspects remain at large. Police are trying to identify them, along with this woman, who is a person of interest, seen with one of the outstanding suspects at an ATM.
She's not a suspect. She's merely someone who we hope can help us.
Investigators say the victims are not on the hook and have been made whole by their financial institutions. They believe there are more victims who haven't come forward. Now, in the wake of this investigation, police are urging taxi customers to be vigilant, reminding them that legitimate operators will not refuse cash and will not ask you to hand over your debit or credit card and provide your PIN. Reporting live, I'm Mike Walker. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Mike. And just ahead tonight, could it be the cure to gridlock currently gripping a portion of the downtown? What one city councillor says the city should be doing to keep traffic flowing around King and Church.
A public apology today from the Premier as he met with First Nations leaders at Queen's Park.
The deputy leader of the NDP said comments Doug Ford made yesterday were racist and showed a lack of understanding. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris is live tonight with the latest. Siobhan.
Well, the Premier said both he and First Nations leaders poured their hearts out in that meeting, but it was a meeting that threatened to get off on the wrong foot because of those comments yesterday.
Dozens of chiefs from the Anishinaabe First Nation came to Queen's Park to meet with the Premier. It's a sit-down that began with an "I'm sorry" behind closed doors and again in front of cameras.
I just want to say I sincerely apologize for my words, not only if it hurt all the chiefs in that room, but all First Nations.
That was just over 24 hours after Doug Ford made comments that have been condemned by Indigenous leaders as racist, dangerous.
You can't just keep coming hat in hand
all the time to the government. You got to be able to take care of yourselves.
Ontario's only First Nations MPP had called on the Premier to apologize.
He's calling First Nations beggars. That's not the way we create relationships.
Now having sat with Doug Ford,
our chiefs felt today that the apology was sincere. We are looking at today as a new day.
the Anishinaabe Nation and the 39 First Nations it represents is opposed to Bill 5, which aims to speed up mining in the Ring of Fire. Their Grand Chief says they came into this meeting with suggestions, solutions.
The Premier has made certain commitments that we're not going to speak to today. We do have to respect our nations who weren't in the room today to have those further discussions.
Ford has said his goal is to designate the mineral-rich Ring of Fire a special economic zone where some laws can be ignored as quickly as possible.
This meeting in particular wasn't all about Bill 5. It was about Ontario upholding their treaty responsibility.
The Premier emphasizes the need for collaboration.
I'll always respect treaty rights, and I'll always respect duty to consult, because without First Nations, we can't get the critical minerals out of the ground.
Something the government feels is key to Ontario's prosperity going forward.
In terms of what's next, it's more conversations like this one, more dialogue. The Premier is going to visit some First Nations communities that extended an invitation today, but we know some other Indigenous leaders have already said that they are planning legal action against Bill 5. Reporting live from Queen's Park, I'm Siobhan Morris. Michelle, back to you.
Thank you, Siobhan. Outside we go for our first look at the forecast on this very last day of spring. Cloudy conditions this hour, definitely some humidity in the mix. Could we see some wet weather? Possibly. Maybe not. Lindsay Morrison is here with all the details. What are you seeing, Lindsay?
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking all day long, Michelle. Maybe, maybe not. Let me step aside so you can see the current satellite and radar. We've got heavy rain to our north and to our south, but around the GTA, just a couple of sprinkles, a little bit of drizzle. That's what we're expecting through the evening hours tonight. Still a rainfall warning for areas to the east of Georgian Bay. We have cooled down a little bit thanks to the passing of all this active weather earlier today. Not nearly as humid as it was a little earlier this afternoon. And today you're actually going to find it a little bit warmer the closer you get to the shore of Lake Ontario. Do want to talk about winds. They're coming out of the northwest. Look at this. They're gusting upwards of 75 kilometers per hour. Through the evening hours tonight, those winds will persist. They'll taper off overnight. And temperature-wise, a bit of relief tonight, but the heat starts to build as early as tomorrow. We're going to talk about the heat wave and the heat dome coming up in your 7-day forecast. For now, Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Durham Regional Police say a woman who was found dead after a house fire in Pickering last week was murdered. Emergency crews responded to a home near Primrose Court and Fairport Road on June 11th. The body of a 69-year-old woman was found inside. Investigators say her death was ruled a homicide after an autopsy. A 34-year-old woman has been arrested and charged with accessory after the fact to murder. Police say they've identified an additional suspect, and the investigation remains ongoing.
Police were investigating after a suspect vehicle crashed into a police cruiser in Kensington Market early this morning. Police were called to Augusta Avenue and Denison Square around 4:30 this morning for reports of a person with a gun. Police say a suspect fleeing in a vehicle collided with a cruiser. One shell casing was found in the area. Residents say they're concerned about an increase in crime.
Trying to deal with traffic tie-ups downtown. One city councilor is proposing what he calls a common-sense solution while a major intersection is under construction.
Brad Bradford wants to see King Street open to vehicle traffic since streetcars aren't currently using the transit priority route. CTV's Natalie Johnson has more.
3 weeks into the construction that has shut down the busy King and Church intersection for the better part of the summer, there is mounting concern over mounting congestion.
Chaotic, for sure. Lots of traffic.
Bit of a mess. It's a little annoying. It interrupts my walk to work. It's Toronto, so there's always something going on here.
But there is a lot less going on much of King Street itself, while this water main and streetcar track work is happening.
Look at this. This is sitting here largely empty.
Councillor Brad Bradford making a public pitch to temporarily allow through traffic on King between Spadina and Church, while the street is shuttered to streetcars.
There are no streetcars using this transit priority corridor right now. It is a transit priority corridor in name only.
with the goal of relieving the pressure on Richmond and Adelaide, now bearing the burden of diverted transit in addition to bike lanes and cars.
What I'm hearing from Torontonians is they are mad as hell with the congestion in the downtown core. They want the city to take it seriously. They want the mayor to step up and do something. If she's not prepared to do that, I will.
Bradford's campaign-style announcement comes at a time when speculation is beginning to swirl about who will run for mayor of Toronto next year. When pressed this morning about whether he is gearing up for a run, Bradford would only say that he is having ongoing conversations about city leadership.
So are you running for mayor, Brad? I have not made any decision on that, but I am focused on delivering practical solutions for Torontonians every day.
Mayor Olivia Chow's office responding that it is speeding up the work at King and Church by a full month through 24/7 coordinated construction, firing back with a dueling motion for temporary loading zones and new rules to prevent stopping on Adelaide to, quote, significantly improve the King Street and Church Street transit detour operations. Council will next week debate the gridlock game plan. Proposals turn political.
Some people have never left campaign mode from the 2023 by-election. If you want to run, that's great, but the election isn't until next year.
The King Street construction, though, is already underway. The question is whether the next campaign is too. Natalie Johnson, CTV News.
With their future up in the air, bike lanes on Bloor are in the spotlight once again.
A biking advocacy group is out with new analysis on bike versus cars, which may or may not steer you in the big debate. CTV's Sean Leathong reports.
In the bike lane battle along the streets of Toronto, one organization wanted to see if motor vehicles or bicycles are more frequently on one section of road.
And what we found is that between 5 and 7 p.m., the percentage of all vehicles that were bikes exceeded the number of cars and trucks.
Albert Cole is with Toronto Community Bikeways Coalition. Their group set up a camera last Wednesday along Bloor between Brunswick and Borden at rush hour. According to their count, 1,849 bicycles passed through, compared with 1,741 automobiles.
Well, we'd certainly like the Premier to see what's going on here on Bloor Street, one of the bike lanes that he has said he would take out.
Premier Ford has previously stated the province's intent to remove bike lanes along Bloor, University and Yonge Street. But the removal was put on pause last April while waiting on a judge to rule on the constitutionality of their decision to remove the lanes. In the area where this count was done, some cyclists say they've noticed an increase.
A lot of people going to university, a lot of people going downtown.
More every year, and they get to use, more people get to use it every year.
So while this may be a high traffic area for cyclists, advocates who want the bike lanes moved to side streets say this information may be misleading.
It's a 2-hour window that they measured on a Wednesday afternoon in June on one city block on Bloor Street. I really don't think it means anything. I don't think this is significant.
Trevor Townsend with the organization Keep Toronto Moving says they are for bike lanes on side streets, not major roadways.
We've got a massive congestion problem in our downtown core, and it's because of poorly thought through public policies.
While congestion is a concern, there is a recent study that says bike lanes can reduce congestion if they are separated by a barrier.
I try to avoid main streets as much as possible in Toronto because drivers don't pay that much attention.
Currently along Bloor, there are a mix of lanes that are separated by a barrier and those just by a painted line. Sean Leathong, CTV News.
The Toronto District School Board has approved its 2-year budget plan with a focus on balancing the books. The board voted to approve a balanced budget for the next 2 school years. The new budget includes an additional $2 million for special education, as well as $1 million for music education. It maintains board ownership of pools for the first year, but could see them cut along with music instructors in the second year. The board had been under pressure to balance the books, with the province threatening to take over the board if they could not come up with a balanced budget. Ontario's Education Ministry has already announced a financial investigation into the board.
After meeting with his National Security Council, Donald Trump now says a decision on whether the United States strikes Iran will come in the next 2 weeks. CTV's Joy Malvin reports.
Overnight, a violent attack on an Israeli hospital, the war raging on as the Israeli army intensifies its strikes against Iran's nuclear facilities. The U.S. president weighing the risk of America joining Israel's war.
Based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place,
with Iran in the near future, he will make that decision within the next 2 weeks.
The White House says Iran has been weakened, and with a diplomatic off-ramp possible, the president, after reviewing U.S. attack plans, holding off for now. Pre-positioning aircraft carriers and strike groups in the region, even stocking up on blood supplies. Israel has damaged most of Iran's nuclear facilities, but top of its target list is Iran's Fordo uranium enrichment facility, buried deep underground. Only the U.S. has the stealth bombers needed to carry the 30,000-pound bombs that could destroy it. Israel's prime minister pressuring the president.
He gave them the chance to do it through negotiations. They strung him along. You don't string along Donald Trump.
With the specter of the Iraq war hanging over the president's decision, it's causing deep divisions among Trump's supporters.
If you're calling for toppling in government, it's incumbent on you to know something about the country and to think through the consequences of that. And you haven't, and you don't. And I'm saying that's reckless.
Okay, you engage in reckless rhetoric.
Conservative Tucker Carlson and Congressman Ted Cruz in an explosive shouting match, with Democrats warning.
And if there's one thing we know, it's hell of a lot easier to start a war in the Middle East than it is to end one. And I have no idea what this administration's plan is going forward.
The president has reviewed possible attack plans, but with the chance at substantial negotiation, the president is buying time, stepping back to see what Israel can do, but holding out the option of U.S. military action. Joy Malbin, CTV News, Washington.
Well, just days before a highly anticipated NATO summit, Spain has rejected a proposal for members to increase their defense spending. It's expected the countries will be asked to spend 5% of their GDP. But today, Spain said it can't commit to that number, calling it unreasonable. It's requesting a more flexible formula that either makes the spending goal optional or excludes Spain from its application. Any agreement to raise defense spending would require unanimous approval by the 32 member states. Canada's Prime Minister will be attending the NATO summit in The Hague next Tuesday and Wednesday. Mark Carney's pledged this country will reach the current defense spending goal of 2% of GDP for the first time since 1990.
A Category 3 hurricane made landfall in southern Mexico today, ripping into a sparsely populated stretch of coastline. The powerful storm came ashore in the state of Oaxaca with maximum sustained winds of 205 kilometers an hour. Hurricane Eric struck an area dotted with agricultural fields and small fishing villages. All activities in the region were suspended, and people were urged to stay in their homes or move to shelters if they live in low-lying areas. The storm has weakened and is expected to dissipate late today or early tomorrow.
There are no injuries when a SpaceX rocket exploded during a planned test flight last night. The company says the Starship experienced a major anomaly while on the test stand. It was preparing for the 10th such flight at a launch site in southern Texas. In January, one of the massive rockets broke apart. 2 months later, the same thing happened to another Starship during a test flight in which SpaceX lost contact with the craft.
Here at home, not much remains of an enormous elm tree. City crews are cutting down near Christie Pitts. All of the largest limbs have been chopped off the more than 100-year-old tree on Barton Avenue. Earlier this year, the city's forestry department determined the tree had to come down because it was nearly dead and posed a safety hazard. Prior to being cut down, it was believed to be one of the largest native elm trees in all of Toronto.
Coming up, shocking new insight into the world of stolen cars in this province. W5's John Woodward reveals how a Service Ontario clerk helped criminals do their dirty work.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, if you're planning a flight this summer, everyone likes to get a deal. But if you're booking using a third-party website, be careful. One couple's dream vacation was ruined because of a typo on an airline ticket. That story is just ahead.
Back into heat and humidity for tomorrow. 27 degrees in Toronto, feeling like 34. We've also got the risk of a passing shower or storm, and that will be the case too if you're spending the weekend at the cottage. But of course, the big story heading into the weekend is all this heat. It's going to be intense and perhaps dangerous at times into next week. We're going to take a full look at your weather forecast after this break. You're watching CTV News. We'll be right back.
When you see it happen, send it to CTV News. Text 10400. From your screen to ours. Text 10400.
If you're planning on booking a flight this summer, you can use a travel agent, do it yourself through the airline, or use a third-party website.
You may be able to find better deals depending on how you book your ticket, but you may find the discount isn't worth it if there's a mistake. Here's Pat Foran and Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Michelle. A couple was booking a dream vacation to Africa and was searching for flights online. They got a call from a travel website offering a good price, but one of the tickets had a typo of just one letter, which ended up ruining the trip.
Just to change the M at the end of my name, I'll have to pay.
Audrey Hamilton and her husband of Curtis planned a dream vacation to Ghana, and in February were online looking for tickets. They entered their phone number in a website, and not long after, someone gave them a call.
A 188 call that they're selling tickets to go somewhere, and they notice I've been searching for tickets, and they will help me.
The caller told Hamilton he could get her 2 tickets round trip from Toronto to Ghana for just over $2,700. She agreed, gave her information, and bought the tickets. But when she checked them, there was a typo in her last name.
At the end of my name, he put an M instead of an N. So immediately when we saw that, we emailed him, texted him. He never responded.
Hamilton booked through a third-party website called ASAP Tickets. She said after a month of trying to correct her name to Hamilton instead of Hamilton, she was told she could be issued new tickets, but was shocked at how much she would have to pay.
It's going to cost me $2,000 plus. And when I said that, he said that, I said, that's going to be double pain.
The tickets were for United Airlines, but the company told CTV News the customer will need to work directly with the third-party booking agency to make changes to their tickets. When CTV News reached out to ASAP Tickets, a spokesperson said, "We will not be providing statements to the media regarding this matter."
It's a painful and hard lesson to learn.
TECO, Ontario's travel regulator, offers protection for travel services within Ontario. It says be cautious using third-party websites and realize that TECO-registered travel services offer more safeguards in case there's a problem.
The benefit of using a travel agent or travel advisor is there's a requirement that the documentation is correct at the time the booking is made.
Hamilton feels the typo was not her fault and in the end had to cancel the trip as she didn't want to pay $2,000 to fix the mistake.
I'm just having a lot of anxiety and not knowing what to really do. I think it's unfair. It's devastating.
And it's always best to triple check names and make sure they match your passport. Some airlines allow you to correct mistakes within 24 hours at no charge. But if it's a non-refundable ticket, there may be a fee or it may not be allowed at all. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
So maybe rain, maybe not rain, but we know there's a lot of hot weather coming.
And just in time for the first day of summer tomorrow.
Yes.
I mean, did spring go by quickly or not? I just want to take advantage of the fact that we have an entire summer in front of us starting tomorrow.
Yes, we can focus on that. You know, I think we spent much of spring saying, where's all the hot weather? And then now all of a sudden, in this final week of the season, here it is. And it's going to heat up in a hurry as we make our way into the summer season this weekend. A reminder to make sure your air conditioning is working. You know, this time last year, my air conditioner broke and we had a heat wave. So I know what it's like to live without it. And I encourage you to find a cool place to be into next week. Let's take a look at what's left of Hurricane Eric before we talk about what's happening here at home. We had it in our newscast just a little while ago. This is now done and dusted. Tropical Storm Eric now dissipating into a post-tropical low, but it was the first major hurricane of the season and the 5th named storm of the Pacific season. So this is something we're going to be watching over the next few months as well as we progress into summer. It's been a windy day today. We've currently got gusts around 60 30 kilometers per hour here in Toronto, coming out of the northwest. The winds are going to ease as we make our way into the overnight hours tonight, and then it'll be a calmer day wind-wise overall tomorrow, too. We've still got this rainfall warning in place for Parry Sound, Huntsville, and extending into the province of Quebec. 40 to 60 millimeters of rain expected by the time all is said and done. Not a lot of active weather around the GTA. A couple of showers just south of Lake Simcoe at this hour, and along the north shore of Lake Erie. It has been a soggy day for communities within that rainfall warning. This low is going to continue to exit. Behind it, we will enjoy drier conditions tomorrow, but not entirely so. Still the risk of a passing shower or storm for your Friday. And then Saturday, the forecast is a little complicated too. First, here's midday Friday, lots of sunshine. Best chance of maybe seeing some passing shower activity is going to be late in the day as we welcome the summer season. And then Saturday, watch for a few thunderstorms across southwest Ontario in the morning or midday. Might clip us in the GTA. Then we'll get some late day clearing in the afternoon and evening. Overnight thunderstorms are going to be possible east of Georgian Bay and in through eastern Ontario. Right now, it is 19 degrees in Toronto, so this is our break from the heat. Enjoy this because this is what's coming. The hot weather making its way toward us here in southern Ontario. It's essentially going to be a heat dome, and when that happens, all the heat is trapped, has nowhere to go. It's going to be with us for days. Overnight tonight, 15 degrees. That is seasonal. We won't be saying that too much more going forward. Temperature-wise, tomorrow you can expect anywhere from the low to mid-20s for a high, but already it's going to be feeling into the 30s in many areas, including here in Toronto. Little snapshot of your weekend forecast. Saturday already hot at 28 degrees, feeling like 35, but then Sunday 32, humidex 43, and Monday is going to be a scorcher as well. Sunshine and a high of 34. This is heat warning criteria. 3 consecutive days of 32 degrees or higher, and then we're finally going to get some relief and perhaps some rainfall through the middle part of next week. That's the forecast for now. Michelle, over to you.
Thanks, Lindsay. Also tonight, a breath of fresh air for people living with a chronic nasal condition. Safer treatment that can improve sleep, breathing, and reduce migraines. Health is next. For more than 1 million Canadians, they can cause difficulty breathing, facial pain, sleep disturbance, and even the loss of the sense of smell.
Those suffering from nasal polyps used to rely on steroids, but as CTV's health reporter Pauline Chan tells us, there's now another alternative.
As a child, Renee Lambert recalls having trouble blowing out birthday candles.
I also had problems blowing up balloons, and I never thought about it being asthma.
As an adult, she was diagnosed with asthma and also nasal polyps, benign growths in her sinuses that cause difficulty breathing, sleeping, and even eating. The condition is known as chronic rhinosinusitis with nasal polyps.
So asthma and nasal polyps oftentimes will coexist, so about 40% of the patients with polyps will have asthma.
I was getting migraines, which I never have. And there were a couple of times where my eye blew up as if someone hit me with a baseball bat. And I just couldn't live like this anymore.
Treatment generally includes steroids, both topical and oral, and/or surgery. Renee had surgery, but the polyps returned. Her doctors recommended the common steroid prednisone, but she was concerned about side effects.
Short term, you can have mood disturbances. You can actually have high blood pressure, bumps your blood pressure up. It changes your blood sugar as well. And it also can cause a hip fracture.
It can also cause weight gain, cardiovascular problems, osteoporosis, and diabetes. In fact, a recent study showed 40% of rhinosinusitis patients with polyps face overexposure to oral corticosteroids.
The survey was done by GlaxoSmithKline in conjunction with Asthma Canada.
Dr. Yvonne Chan says newer biologic drugs, available over the past 4 years, offer a safer alternative.
It changes the lining in the nose and the sinuses. What it does is it repairs some of the dysfunction in the lining.
Dr. Chan and Renee both call it a game changer, and they're hoping more patients and physicians will learn more about this option for treating nasal polyps. Pauline Chan, CTV News.
A W5 investigation is shedding light on how some employees of Service Ontario, the agency that registers cars in the province, are helping thieves steal them.
CTV's John Woodward reveals how criminals working in provincial licensing systems might be a problem right across Canada.
This is surveillance video of a driveway east of Toronto in 2021. It's almost 2 a.m. You can see the 5 men climb the stairs of the home. They demand a resident's car keys and fire a gun into the ground. They made off with a $400,000 Bentley in the driveway. The hunt for the thieves led investigators to a company here in Sudbury, Ontario. That business was registering cars, even though an OPP report filed in court said officers concluded this business does not exist. Some of those cars discovered on this lot just north of Toronto, belonging to another company called Prexco. Visitors weren't exactly welcome, but we went there anyway, looking for Prexco's director, Eric Johnson.
We're looking for Eric Johnson?
We got someone on the phone, but he didn't have much to say.
Okay, listen, man, I don't have time for this.
After the police visited the same property in 2022, recording this video, they accused Johnson of being the mastermind of a scheme to disguise stolen cars from Land Rovers to Porsches, changing their unique vehicle identification numbers so he could sell them. And he had help. Police believed he was working with a clerk at this Brampton Service Ontario, someone he called My Girl in wiretaps, who bragged she could stop toll highway bills from ever making it to the driver.
Let's say, for example, you're on 407 and you don't pay the bills, and they'll never come back to you.
The clerk, a woman named Tanisha Baird. Among the vehicles she registered with Johnson was one for her to drive, an Audi Q3 SUV that was worth about $46,000 new. She paid just $162 in fees. It was the vehicle she was driving when she was arrested. She and Johnson convicted in March, with a judge describing her as a car thief too. We caught up with Johnson himself outside the Brampton courthouse.
Mr. Johnson, John Woodward from CTV. We can stay back. That's fine. We just wanted to see if Mr. Johnson had anything to say for himself. We just wanted to see if he had anything to say, Mr. Johnson, about what's happening. Are you a car thief, sir?
No, your mama is.
Investigators are exploring whether someone on the inside, like Baird, arranged paperwork for any possibly stolen vehicles at a Scarborough dealership, whose salespeople are also facing charges. Cases like this, where a criminal uses someone on the inside of a government agency, could be happening a lot more than we know, said Mike Fair, who used to work for the Edmonton Police's Alert Car Theft Unit.
How widespread is something like that across the country?
I would say that it's all across the country.
What tells you that?
We have stolen vehicles that travel across the country continually. It's mobile.
Ontario's Minister of Transportation says his province has introduced changes that he hopes will make it harder for anyone to illegally re-VIN a car.
For us, it's about making sure that we punish those who do take part in this, create deterrences through legislation.
Johnson and Baird are awaiting sentencing, the judge saying their crimes provide the financial incentive for the violence in thefts like this.
And that was W5's John Woodward. Still to come tonight, CTV's Andrea Kay suits up, gets buckled in, and goes for a ride with a teen racer and rising star from Ajax. We'll take you to the track after the break. An update now on our top story. A Toronto police officer was rushed to hospital after he was involved in a collision with a transport truck on the 403.
The officer was part of the motorcycle division and was on a motorcade training exercise this afternoon. Our Beth McDonnell is on the scene. She joins us live with the latest details. What have you learned, Beth?
Michelle and Nathan, the OPP are investigating this crash between a Toronto police motorcycle and a transport truck. We're going to give you a look now. This is a look of the westbound lanes of Highway 403 at Dundas on the edge of Mississauga near Oakville. As you can see, the motorcycle is now upright next to the transport truck. OPP say this crash happened around 3:15 this afternoon during a police training exercise. Other police forces were also taking part. According to a police source, the officer in the collision has more than 30 years experience on the job. We understand when the crash took place, the officer got caught under the transport trailer trailer. That's when the truck's axle hit the officer's helmet and cracking that helmet. We're told his injuries are not non-life threatening, but he has a laceration to his face and is in a lot of pain. The OPP are working to figure out what happened here and say in this case, the motorcycle is considered the vulnerable road user.
Well, we've seen that far too often, and not just in this situation, but anytime there's a vulnerable road user, a motorcyclist, a pedestrian, a bicyclist involved in a collision with any type of vehicle, the potential for injuries are significant. And obviously, no matter who's right or wrong, the vulnerable road user is usually the one who is going to pay the price in terms of the injuries. So that is what we're trying to understand exactly what took place, and that will come out as the investigation continues. So.
The officer in the collision was rushed to a trauma center for his injuries. OPP say the driver of the transport truck is cooperating. The westbound lanes of the 403 at Dundas here remain closed. Reporting live on Beth McDonnell, Michelle and Nathan, back to you.
Appreciate the update, Beth. Thank you. The federal government is continuing to defy the U.S. by sticking with a planned tax on global tech giants. For now, anyway. BNN Bloomberg's Andrew Bell brings us the latest in business.
Hello there. Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne insists that Ottawa is going ahead with a digital sales tax aimed at global internet giants, despite U.S. objections. However, the minister also said the future of the levy, quote, is something we're considering as part of broader discussions. There is speculation that Canada will use that proposed tax as a bargaining chip in trade talks with Washington. It would hit companies such as Amazon, Google parent Alphabet, and Meta with a 3% levy on revenue. Meanwhile, still on trade, the Prime Minister, Mr. Carney, said Canada will soon adopt tariffs to tackle global overcapacity and unfair trade in steel and aluminum, and will also adjust existing counter-tariffs on U.S. metal products on July 21st, following the U.S. imposition of duties on metal imports from Canada. The Canadian dollar changed hands at 73 U.S. cents, down a fraction. West Texas Intermediate oil was at $73.88, up 38 cents. Our latest fix on Western Canadian Select oil, $61.48 a barrel, up 23 cents. And the TSX Composite closed at 26,506.0, down just under 54 points. Those are your business headlines. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Rental prices are declining across the country, but many still aren't ready to trade their lease for a mortgage agreement. Nearly 40% of renters spend between 31 to 50% of their income on monthly rent costs, according to a new report from Royal LePage and Burson. Over the past 5 years, rent prices in Canada have increased, outpacing wage growth and making it harder to save for a down payment. The report says more than half of renters plan to buy a property in the future, but just 16% might do so within the next 2 years, and nearly 1/3 of renters do not plan to purchase a home at all. Meanwhile, up to 4.8 million new homes will need to be built over the next decade to restore affordability levels last seen in 2019. That's based on projected demand. The Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation estimates between 430,000 and 480,000 new housing units are needed per year by 2035. That would be about double the current pace of home construction in Canada. The latest report from the National Housing Agency says Ontario and Nova Scotia have the most significant housing supply gaps.
In sports, the Toronto Blue Jays finished up a 3-game set with Arizona this afternoon, looking for a sweep.
Ryan Nelson deals to Alejandro Kirk, and the first pitch is lasered out to right center field and deep, back towards the wall. That ball off the fence.
The Diamondbacks were up 2-0 when Alejandro Kirk cut the lead in half with a solo home run. It was his first of 2 on the day. Arizona would eventually take a 9-1 lead before the Jays answered with 4 more runs. It ended 9-5 for the visitors. Toronto welcomes the White Sox to town tomorrow.
Indiana, we've talked about this. You were one of the fastest teams, but you got to slow down.
Gilgeous-Alexander didn't slow down.
Hamilton's Shai Gilgeous-Alexander can win his first NBA championship tonight. SGA and his Thunder teammates are up 3-2 after Monday's 120-109 victory. The Toronto native won the regular season scoring title and was picked the league's most valuable player. It's very possible he could also be chosen the finals MVP. Tip-off tonight is just after 8:30 in Indianapolis.
The Toronto Scepters continue to round out their roster today. The team signing defender Callie Flanagan to a one-year contract extension. She had 3 goals and 4 assists last season and was second on the club in time on ice. Toronto has already re-signed Jesse Comfer, Maggie Connors, and 2024 MVP Natalie Spooner.
The Stanley Cup's a little banged up, but will look as good as new for the Florida Panthers' victory parade on Sunday. The bowl of the trophies cracked with the bottom dented after the team partied with the cup after winning their second consecutive championship Tuesday night.
When the Toronto Indy takes place next month, Formula 4 races for younger drivers will feature an Ajax teenager who is making a name for himself on the track.
CTV's Andrea Case got into the passenger seat and has the story.
Before Mayor Dion Areen can take me for a spin around the track at Mosport, I need a little help not only with my helmet, and getting into the race car is a delicate balancing act for the uninitiated.
And then slide into it like a bathtub. Put your feet first. I just turned 16.
Okay, so do you have a license?
No, not yet.
What do you mean you don't have a license?
I haven't had time to get a license yet, so my dad won't even let me back the car in the driveway.
But on the track, he puts his foot down, and all I can do is hang on. Wade Hashie of Radical Canada says this British-made car is made for the track.
The fact that they're purebred race cars. They're built from the factory to be raced. They come from the factory race ready. For example, anti-lock brakes, traction control, power steering, they're all manual.
Dion Areen started racing in the F4 Series last year. Formula 4 racing is an entry-level open-wheel category. On it, from Europe to North America, he's been racking up the wins.
You felt it, right? Need for Speed is what I love, and since I was a kid, I've liked cars and trucks, and I got into go-karting at a young age. I actually started a little bit late, so I got in at 10 years old, but I currently driver coach kids that start at 3 years old.
3 years old?
3 years old, and they're going like 40 kilometers an hour.
It is an expensive endeavor. At this level, it can cost over $1 million a year. It couldn't be done without sponsors. And Road to Racing, a Canadian motorsport foundation, is committed to eliminating financial barriers for emerging race car drivers. The Ajax native says 90% of preparation is done off the track, including simulation driving. It takes a lot of stamina to race in the heat.
It's a lot of gym training, right? We have to be fit, but we also have to last an hour being that fit. So we work on muscle density, not muscle volume, right? So to be in a car, you have to be fit, but you have to last that hour doing the same time consistently within that 10th, right? So it's constantly in the gym.
And sometimes the heat gets to the reporter, too. The Honda Dealers Toronto Indy Radical Series takes place on July 19th, and that's where you can catch Mayor driving. And maybe one day he will be an F1 Formula Racer driver. Andrea Case with the Need for Speed, CTV News.
Just ahead, for the love of the game, a new exhibit draws inspiration from the cultural impact of basketball on and off the court, bringing together art, fashion, and hoops.
Get Toronto's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
A new exhibit at Yorkdale Mall is bringing together artists and their love for basketball. It's titled Love, Art, and Basketball.
The Visual Art Gallery showcases the importance of the game to the fabric of Toronto. CTV's Jessica Smith has the story.
Ball is life in Canada.
I mean, it's just so easy to pick up a ball and go to the nearest court and play.
Love, Art, and Basketball is a mixed media pop-up exhibit featuring 17 local artists.
Because that's how talented Toronto is. We have so much to choose from, and we're so excited to have this exhibit to showcase that talent.
It showcases how the game is ingrained into community art and fashion on and off the court.
As an artist,
I want to approach the sport in a more delicate way and kind of explore the softness through it.
Where artists support artists while uplifting their communities.
The sport of basketball has made a cultural impact, fashion, sports, and for personal development. So it's for the community, curated by the community for the community.
The pop-up also includes panel discussions and workshops, and is all located at Art Starts beneath Yorkdale Mall. Love Art and Basketball is free to the public and runs through to July 23rd. For more information, you can visit loveartbasketball.com. Jessica Smith, CTV News.
Love it. Looks great.
We are monitoring the potential for unsettled weather. It's going to heat up, and then with it, the chance of some rain.
Yeah, so if you're playing basketball outdoors tonight, just be aware that a passing shower could happen for this evening. I think it'd be welcomed for lawns and gardens in and around the region because, yeah, it's been dry at times, and it's also going to be very hot going forward, as we've mentioned. One more look at the satellite and radar. Yeah, not a lot happening in our neck of the woods, but still a chance, again, of a quick passing shower. And then tomorrow, similar situation. Mix of sun and cloud, though, during the day. Heat starting to build. Looks like our better chance of seeing some active weather will be late in the day. That's also when we welcome summer officially. The summer solstice at 10:41 p.m. tomorrow night. And then that first weekend of summer, sounding like a broken record, but it is going to be hot. It is going to be very humid. And Monday is going to be very sunny as well. So lots going on. Looks like some wet weather and some cooler air returns through the middle part of next week. Michelle and Nathan.
Hello, Summer. Thank you, Lindsay. That's it for us, but you can join Omar Sachedina tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zarada Allman with your next local newscast at 11:30.
Meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.